right, as promised, we are almost at the 50 mark, but we're going to go ahead and get started because I know time is precious for everyone. So I just want to welcome everybody to a TPM webinar. This webinar is going to be focusing on Bluebeam, as you guys saw when you signed up. I am Broderick Whitlock. We will go through some formalities here in a second, so definitely am excited for this webinar to begin. All right, so let me go ahead and move on slides here for you guys. All right, so the title of this presentation today is going to be I Didn't Know Bluebeam Could Do That. So there are some simple tools inside of Bluebeam that a lot of people don't know exist, or maybe have run across them a little bit from time to time and maybe not remembered how they got there. So hopefully these things that we show you today will be kind of a reminder or something completely new. All right, the two people in this, I was going to say podcast because I used to do podcasting actually, but the two people in this presentation are myself, Broderick Whitlock, and Annie Langston. You probably won't hear much from Annie until the end there, but a little bit about me. I have about 8 years of Bluebeam experience. I am a technical solutions consultant with TPM. I am a certified Bluebeam instructor. I have an architectural and an urban design background. So my experience with Bluebeam started actually when I was an urban designer, or actually a planner with one of the towns here in North Carolina. And so it's continued to grow as I've continued to grow professionally. Annie Langston is going to be your Bluebeam account manager. So if you guys are our customers, you probably heard from her before, whether it be email, Teams chat, or on the phone. She's got about 3.5 years of Bluebeam experience. She's a certified Bluebeam specialist. And again, she is here to help and support your account. So if you are not our customer right now, we would love to obviously have you guys on board. We can talk to you guys about that afterwards, or we'll give you guys our email so that way we can maybe set a conversation up. But if you are, welcome again. Thank you for participating in this webinar. Today's topic of discussion is going to be I didn't know Bluebeam could do that. Simple tools to improve day-to-day workflow. The topics that we're going to discover and talk about today are going to be aligning markups, simple yet effective ways to keep your markups in order, custom count symbols, create count symbols to make sense for your company's day-to-day workflow, viewports for multiple scales on sheets, and creating spaces to keep markups organized. Let's go ahead and get started and see these tools in action. All right, so let's get started. Taking a look at our Bluebeam PDF, we're going to actually start with Markup Alignment. So here, we're going to annotate a few things just to get some stuff on the PDF. That way we're able to see this alignment in action. We're also going to do a few additional things as well, not just callouts, but maybe some clouds and some other things. As you can see here, just marking this up like a planner may do whenever they are working on a site plan, just getting some things in order. These guys maybe needed to add an extra handicap ramp here, as well as you can see asking for them to denote parking spaces. Looks a little bare over here as well, so we're going to go ahead and have them add some additional landscaping, or at least give us a landscaping plan as well, because we didn't see that in the site. And after I get done with this, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we select all of our documents after I get my wording correct too, because I want to make sure we're clear with what we're requesting them to do. Let's just say we're planning diagram. All right, so now that I'm done with that, I'm gonna hit escape, and I'm gonna add a few leaders just to point to these other places, because everything else on the site looks a little bare too, so let's get some more plants in there. And doing a right click there, so you can add as many leaders as you would like. Nice thing is for Review 20, you can actually add leaders to other sides too. But highlighting everything here, as you can see, we have a lot of alignment options. I'm going to pay attention to that a little bit later, but I have aligned all of those left justified, and it really depends on what you're choosing. So I chose that top one to align to. Let's go to another sheet here. We're going to add some additional annotations to this sheet as well. So we're going to cloud up these, or near these columns, just to show some other alignment options that we have available inside of Bluebeam. There is a way, of course, to repeat the tool that you recently used, but of course, for purposes of teaching, going up to one of the typical ways that you would access your tools, especially in the Review Advanced profile. highlighting all of these, we're going to right click on this first one and we're going to align to center. So that is our source. But as you can see, before I did that, there are a ton of different options for alignment. So we will play around with a few of those as well. Let's highlight these two once I get it highlighted. And then we're going to show you that, hey, you can align size, you can flip horizontal, vertical, you can even center on a document as well. Now let's go into our tool chest here. And being on the Review Advanced profile, I have the design symbols up. So I'm going to add a few things, just asking for some sections to go through these this storefront or this class, just to see that in elevation, and I'm able to actually get some details in there. Maybe just asking for some more information. So let's add those in one at a time. I mean, again, you can do a repeat the last tool that you used. Just going to play around with some size here as well, and then I will go back in. As you can see, I'm adding these elements in, or adding the information in as well. So you can edit these. These tools come standard with your copy of Bluebeam. I'm making this a little bit larger. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. So we're going to move it down, because what I want to do is take a look at like our vertically distribute. So I'm going to actually move it down so it makes more sense and you can kind of see it move. All right, so I'm going to get that guy down there. We're going to add another one in here. Oh, my bad. Let's add another one in here. We're just going to go back to the toolbox. All right, so let's go ahead and edit this one as well. Make it the third view on sheet A106. Then what we'll do is we will highlight all three of these. All right, highlight all three, and then we will vertically distribute. So you'll see how they distribute evenly vertically. So this could work for, say, numbers or other things, and we're also going to get it to align right, so that way they're all in line and clean. So sometimes this helps when you're working with markups. Now, not all the time, so you have the ability to have markups aligned properly, but it makes sense here. All right, so next we're going to roll into our custom symbols. So let's create two custom symbols. What I want to do is maybe take a look at doors. Let's just say glass doors versus wooden doors in this project. We're just going to want to create a count. So I'm going to add some text. Hollow metal, which I'll go back and fix that here after I get done. We're going to do HM here. And then we're going to copy these items. We're going to create two more. So we want to go back from, two different types of doors that I mentioned earlier, which obviously hollow metal does not stand for wood. So after I change these colors here, we'll go back and change that text as well. Let's change this green. Yeah, that might be a little bit hard to see, so let's go ahead and change that to a darker green there. All right, let's edit this text. Name that a glass door. I know there's probably some better symbols or better acronyms for what I'm putting in here, but this will work for now. Just going to get some alignment as well. So using those alignment tools to help with my custom count symbol that we will create. Having a little trouble here because my text box, of course, is a little bit bigger than the circle, so it's not giving me that even alignment. So let me go up here and shrink this text box to the font or the text there. All right, yeah, still not where I want it, so maybe I'll do some manual shifting there just to get as even as possible. Do the same thing here with the glass door symbol. All right, get it aligned as well. And then what we're going to do after that, we're going to actually group these together. So grouping those together first, both of them. And then the thing about this is you create your symbols first, and then you actually need to add them to a tool chest. So just trying to figure out where I want to put them. Do I want to put them in my tools and say one of these custom toolboxes that I've done for customers or something like that? But from here, just trying to figure out again where I want to put them. You can put them in your company's toolbox if you guys have one of those, so that way it's all standardized across the company, because of course you can share your toolbox. So let's add these to the tool chest. I decided on my tools. And then if you right click on them inside of your tool chest, you can click on create count. You'll notice that another symbol joins your toolbox with the little count symbol next to it. So now we can actually start a count. So I'm just going to place a few of these glass doors around my project. And then let's go and get that wooden door as well. So as I'm placing these, one thing about custom count symbols is when you create them and turn them into a count, you cannot edit that count symbol, like the color or the shape or anything like that. You would actually have to go back and create another symbol that is similar to it, or at least if you've added it to your tool chest and not deleted it, then you can actually go back and edit it and then do the same thing, add to tool chest and create count. So as you can see, our count measurements are there as well. Now what I want to do is maybe get some more definition to them. So going to our settings, our properties here, I'm just going to change the one that is glass door to glass door count. Probably could do like doors or count colon glass door, however you want to separate them, because you'll notice that in your markups list they will separate a little bit because they're going to go alphabetically. Of course, you can filter those out if you want to as well. So you can see here we have glass door count, and we also have wooden door count there. All right. So that is custom count symbols. You can do it with anything inside of Bluebeam, really. So as long as you add those to your tool chest, then right click and add a custom count or create count from them, you're good to go. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. We're going to scroll down to this page 14. So we're going to talk about viewports. Now, one thing that you guys may have noticed is sometimes when you open up a PDF, it'll say that you have viewports associated with them. So I'm going to show you here, this PDF actually already has viewports on it. So if you actually say, yes, I want to keep those viewports, then this is what you'll see. But before I get there, as I'm pointing out, all of these have different scales for these little details and things of that nature for the toilets and the bathrooms and the door swings. So I'm just saying, hey, this sheet has a bunch of different scales on it. We run across that a fair amount in the industry, because sometimes you'll have a large floor plan and then a large floor plan on the same sheet. So I just deleted those viewports and we're going to create some new ones, right? These all can be found in your measurements flyout. So let's create a box. We're going to change the scale to match what it states in the box. And then I'm actually going to go back and change the precision. You don't have to, but I'm going to change it. And then I'm going to add, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and rename that to the actual name of the view that it is in. Lavatory clearance detail 1 here. And then we will click apply or click enter. We're going to do it a couple more times or a few more times with the other items. Same process, drawing out that box or clicking on the plus symbol, drawing out that box, changing the scale, changing the precision, and adding the name. So here, toilet dimensions and grab bar. I think we're just going to do toilet dimensions. All right, let's do accessories here. Hit that plus symbol. And then draw out the box again. Change the name, so I'm getting a little bit more efficient as I go along here. And 3/8 inch, change it to 1/8 inch precision. At least, like I said, you really don't have to change that precision. Gives you a good understanding. So add one for swing doors, and that'll be it. Let's do a plus here. Hit OK, and draw out our box. Rename our viewport swinging doors. And change the scale as well, 3/16. And change that to 16. All right, so now that we've done that, we can actually start measuring. So you'll notice when we click on our measure tool and hover over that space, there's that viewport available. So measure that out, 18 inches, foot and 6 inches as well. But you can also change the units. So if you did not know that, here's another extra tip as well. So our precision, of course, with it being in inches, we're going to get a little extra there. And I'm holding down shift to actually move this dimension off. So I'm getting that leader kind of pointing to that dimension, but uncluttering as much as I can. So let's see if we can do a couple other dimensions here. We'll move down to some of the other ones in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and set that first and then take my dimension. Even though it says 19-inch max, 19-inch max, so I'm not going to get an accurate. It's not going to read 19 inches. Going back and changing my font size because it is a little bit big. Holding down shift to kind of get that straight line. Obviously it is snapping to the content, but just note that because it's not 19 inches exactly, that's why it's not giving us that number. Let's do another one here. Let's see what this clearance is. Make sure this minimum clearance is set to 60 inches. Now, I could save a little bit of time if I set this as default. So instead of it being feet and inches, setting it as default, it to always be inches when I measure things. Then, of course, I would save a little bit of time there. Right. Same thing goes. Hold down shift, and you can move that in place. Or move it out of the line so that way you can see it. Last dimension on this sheet here, doing the same things. Again, changing those font size. Let's go down here and do some other measurements as well. Let's see. Let's measure this here. Again, these are all stating minimums, so some of them may not produce the 18 inches or say the 24 inches that they say they should be. But you're kind of getting that understanding of like, you can set this up for anything. So we're actually going to move to another sheet as well that shows us, that's a little cluttered there. Let me undo this. All right. So we're going to move to another sheet as well, showing you that we can do this with floor plans as well. I mean, it really is up to you how you want to utilize viewports, but they will come in handy. Like I said, especially when you have those sheets with multiple views that have multiple scales. I'm just going to play around this precision, see if it cleans up a little bit, but it may or may not help us out there. All right, let's move on to another sheet here. Going back to my thumbnails. As you can see, this guy's a little bit smaller, so I want to show you guys that even though we are currently using preset scales, that we can also do it to where we're utilizing say the calibration tool inside of that viewport. So not limited to just the set scales, but you can actually go in and set your own in case you don't have a scale for that drawing. Doing the same process, highlighting our box after we click the plus symbol, and we're going to click custom and create, or calibrate, sorry. So I'm going to measure this, most doors 3 feet. So I'm going to change that guy to read 3 feet, and now I can measure on the understanding that I set a scale based off of a 3-foot door, and measure these two dimensions here, or these two structural grids. Then just to check and make sure it's measuring properly, which is typically what I want to do first, is using the item that I use to actually set the scale. So as you can see here, this is not all the way on the door seal, so I'm going to need to make sure to edit that. Change the tolerance as well. I'll move that down, holding down shift, and we should get about 3 feet there. So again, not set to creating your own, or you're not set to using one of the set scales, but you can also create your own scale by calibrating. Last but not least, let's talk about creating spaces inside of Bluebeam. So spaces inside of Bluebeam are very beneficial. Sometimes actually people can send you PDFs with rooms created from Autodesk products that will allow for rooms to be transferred if they use the Bluebeam plugin. But here we're just going to create our own. Say we're working with a project that they sent us a PDF and they did not have those rooms set up. So as you can see, we are going into the room tab, and then we are actually using that plus spaces option, or we're going into the spaces tab. And there are two ways to kind of draw out spaces. As you can see, we can use like the polygon type tool where you're clicking once to draw around the perimeter, but then also you could use the click and drag. And after you close out that polygon or that shape, it does prompt us to add our space names to it. And so we're just naming these because this is going to come in handy when we do, say, punch lists, or even when you're doing your standard markups. It's nice to go ahead and have those items labeled so that way the markups can read where they are. Let me do this men's restroom here. Change it to men's restroom. Forgot my caps lock was on. And let's do one more. Maybe the stairwell over to the left here. All right. So once we get this, we're going to click enter, and then we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and get some markups. I'm going to switch my profile. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to add a call out, but I will go back and switch that profile. Let's just say, hey, we need some details for this railing in the stairwell. Just asking for it because we didn't see it. We didn't see a sheet for it. And then let's go up to our review menu here. We're going to go to field issues, where most of the preset field issues toolboxes live. And let's just say, hey, there's a lighting issue in here. And I'll show you guys in a second how you can actually change the way that toolbox is laid out so you can kind of see what the notes are on those tools. Let's add to this. It's the wrong lighting. Technically, we just need you to add a emergency light inside of the stairwell in case the building loses power because we don't see it. I know we're not looking at a lighting plan, but let's act for it. Act like we are for a moment here. All right. Let's add some other ones. Going back into those toolboxes here. And let's expand those. So if I go into flooring issues, you can see it looks a little bit different. So let's change that for lighting too. So clicking on the sprocket and going to detail instead of just symbol view helps us to see what the issues are. Now I know this says electrical as the subject. We can go in and change that to flooring as well. I'm just going to leave it for now. Let's add a border around this because all your text box by default come without a border. Do the same thing. Let's change it to detail view here. Let's add some additional notes to this room. Maybe they need to, got some wrong location for outlets here, even though really you got glass on two sides and walls on the other, or solid walls on the other, so it might be a little difficult to put electrical outlets there. Put the wrong tiles in the bathroom, and there's a chip tile in the server room. Alright, so now that those guys are in place, let's take a look at our markups list. As you can see, let me expand this for you, and you can see our spaces are listed. You may have to turn that column on, and then we can sort by spaces so you can see all of our items are inside of those spaces. Now the beauty of this with spaces is if you move any of your items, they will actually update in your markups list so they know where they're going. So it may take a little bit of time to actually set spaces up, but once you have them set up, it really helps to be efficient when it comes to punch lists. Seeing what rooms have all the issues, you can sort that way instead of just kind of hopping around on your markups list and saying, okay, well, this one's in room 246, but then this one's all the way across the building. You can kind of consolidate your efforts there with spaces. All right, so again, I want to thank those that were letting me know the audio was having issues. This is the first time we actually have run a recorded video during a webinar. So what we will be doing with this presentation is we will be sending this out, obviously with better audio or higher audio so you guys can hear it and rewind and watch some parts that maybe you missed just because of the audio. But there was one great question that came up from Carter about saving the symbol that I created to a toolbox. So let me go ahead and bring Bluebeam over to our screen here so you guys are able to see that. And let me open up a document. Just get one of these guys that's open. Okay. So there are going to be a few different ways that you can add items to your toolbox, toolboxes inside of Bluebeam. So let's go ahead and draw out a symbol here. Change my profile really quick though. I'm used to working in the Revu Advanced profile, so let me go ahead and change that to that. All right, so something similar to what I did in the webinar is we drew out our circle here, and I'm just going to bump up that width of that circle so you guys can see it a little bit better. And then I'm going to go in and put in a text box. All right. So actually, I'm going to use the typewriter tool instead. That way I can just click and start typing. I'm just going to put my initials here. And actually, I'll do this. Remember, let's go there. And then just minimize that. Auto size that toolbox so that way it kind of surrounds our text there. Now, what I did in the presentation here was I, of course, selected both of those by doing a crossing window, and I just hit Control G to group those together. You can, of course, go in and right-click on it as well. So this is where it gets kind of fun as far as having multiple ways to actually go ahead and add items to tool chests. So one way is whenever you're creating markups inside of Bluebeam, they always add to your recent tools list. So you'll always see them here. Now the thing about this is inside of your recent tools, if you haven't changed this, you probably only have access to the 12 last tools that you used. So sometimes I recommend going in and just changing that number to 30 because we do get busy, and at times it's tough for us to go back and like remember what we did or something that we really liked, even though I'll show you a way that you can pull from a document that you've already placed markups on, add those to tool chests as well. So inside of recent tools, this is one method that you can add to tools. You can actually just click and drag those items into whatever toolbox you would like. Okay, so that's one way. Another way, say if you did mark something up on a sheet or you created it, you can actually right click on it. And down here at the bottom, you have the option to add to tool chest, and you can place it wherever you want to go inside of that tool chest. So you can pick one of the ones that's going to be visible. So say if you're in a profile, you don't have a tool chest that you want, or you're like, I really need to create a new tool chest to add these markups to, you can still go ahead and add that to your, say, my tools, and then once you create that new toolbox, you can actually add it in there. So again, a couple ways to kind of do your adding tools to tool chest there. I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint here. Are there any other questions that may have come up? Like I said, we did cover, and let me switch back to this for you guys here. So we covered aligning markups. As you saw with that, you can just select the markups that you placed. You select all of them, or use your crossing window to select the ones specifically, or even holding down Shift and selecting them individually to kind of collectively have them in a selection. And then whenever you right click on one of those markups, remember the item that you right click on is actually going to be the source. So if you're trying to center anything, let's switch back to Bluebeam really quick. Just going to copy a few of these. So just remember that when you say select all of those, if you want them to center on this one, you will want to right click on this item and say align, and then go to align middle, because they're going to align to that. So whatever you right click on is going to be the source. The other item that we went over was custom count symbols. Can you put a polyline at any point? You can remove a point, but it would be nice to cut the line. Oh, so like splitting it? I'm assuming that's what you mean, Brad. I will actually give, okay. I don't think we can split, but let's see. Let's experiment really quick. So I know we can actually add a node. We should be able to add a node in here. So let me locate where that is. Actually, it looks like we cannot. I know in polylines we can actually add something. So polylines, you can add an additional control point, but you can't add to a basic line. That would actually be a pretty good idea. One thing I'm thinking, so I want to point this out to you all that are using Bluebeam. So if you have suggestions like that, as far as to like being able to remove a point, or I mean, not remove a point, but like cut a line, you can actually go to your help menu here and go into make a suggestion. That will actually go to Bluebeam directly. Just let them know what product you're using, and then it asks for a little bit of description. And I can say that there's a lot of success to actually submitting things, because if you have been using Bluebeam for a while and you've done area measurements before, you may have noticed that acreage wasn't an option probably about 3 versions ago. But now it actually is. And I know that myself and a few other clients of ours have requested for acreage calculation, especially people that work in the construction field, or like the land planning field and things of that nature. Acreage is nice. So unfortunately, to your answer to your question, Brad, no, it's not possible, but definitely go in and create that suggestion. Just let them know, because this program is constantly growing and they always like to hear back from people that are using the program, because they can't think of everything, but users can give them better ideas. All right, so custom count symbols, as we did, say for instance, if we wanted to create this as a custom count symbol, remember that you have to add it to your tool chest first. And then once you add it to your tool chest, you can do a create a count. As I mentioned in the video, you're not able to go back in and say, if I wanted to change, say if I create this count, create count, and I go to place that, I cannot go in and manipulate the color of this symbol that I created. So be very careful with that. If you're going to want to change colors around, just note that you would have to go back to the original item, and then you can change the color. Would you ever use the spaces you showed us to find square footage of a room? So let's actually go over that. I think I have that file I used for the presentation saved, or I have one with spaces on it. So one cool thing about spaces inside of Bluebeam, let me activate the spaces first. So you can actually right click on a space that was created. And you can actually create an area from it. So the beauty of this is, as I stated, if you utilize Revit and you have, say, Bluebeam Extreme or Bluebeam, the CAD version of it, Revu Extreme or Revu CAD, there's a way through Revit in the plugin, if rooms are created inside of the architectural model, you can export that out with those rooms. And so Bluebeam will basically, it'll translate those rooms into spaces in Bluebeam, and you'll be able to kind of pull that information. So you can utilize this since it's already drawn out the border, or of course you can just go up to your area tool inside of Bluebeam as well and do the similar function. Let me minimize some of the stuff around here so you guys can see it better. But if we go in here and do the same thing, I obviously missed a little jut there, but you can draw areas as well that way. So 2 different ways to go about it. The nice thing about spaces, again, is the fact that if we add markups to those spaces, say, let me go here. So if I add a markup there, and I'll go to my markups list, remember that it actually keeps track. Open up my space column there. It keeps track of where that markup is. And so the beauty of that is you'll know exactly which room it's in. And of course, if that markup moves, that markup then locates to another room. When you're getting the area of a space and you want to add another point to the measurement, how do you do that? So you're saying like you missed like a little nook like I did on this one. I'm going to change this color too because red is very aggressive. Sorry, Mary, that might be something on end of the GoToWebinar. We'll definitely take that into consideration. And if you don't mind notating the, oh, no, sorry, Annie, don't even worry about that one.
Yeah, she's referring to Studio,
yeah,
sorry.
I just realized that. I thought it was like the GoToWebinar thing. All right, Mary, I'm gonna get to that question in a second. So yeah, if you want to add another point, like I said, I missed this little nook here. If we right click on that area, we can actually add a control point. And so now that little control point, in this case, I probably need to add 2, and the greens probably know better. So let's change it to nope. Thing about presenting and having colors is kind of tough to see. Let me thicken up this line a little bit. All right, so once my computer catches up with what I just did, you can go in and change that control point or add those control points, and then you can go in and increase that size. So Reed, did that answer your question? All right, so while Reed's responding to that, sweet. So Mary, Bluebeam session email notifications. Let's see. I know there is a way that we can go in and actually change sessions. Let me go into a session actually instead of a project here. Bear with me for a second. Go here. All right. Now, as the creator of this session, I will have some settings that I can go into. And actually, it's not going to be, yep. So manage notifications. You can manage some notifications. Now, you can remove the markups. Say if you didn't want to get an email with markup alerts for all the sessions, you can do that. You can also do the day. You can turn off the daily digest. Now, as far as to the actual information for like ended, archived, we might actually have to reach out to Bluebeam. I don't know if they, and as of right now, you can disable notifications for that. Have you tried disabling the notifications completely? So I wonder if you just disable them all the way, will that happen? And what we can do, Mary, if you want, send us your email. And actually we have it from the list. So, and if you just want to write that name down, we'll get her email and then I'll reach out to Bluebeam and see if we uncheck enable notifications, if that like removes all of the notifications. And then also we'll inquire if there's any chance that you'll have a little bit more customization to what messages you get. All right, so I don't know if that 100% answered your question, Mary, but we will definitely reach out to Bluebeam and see if they'll give us a little bit more definition on that as far as your notifications go. All right, so switching back to what we were covering, like I was saying with custom count symbols, make sure that if you're going to make any edits to the colors or text size, if it is one with text, you have to do that prior to adding it to your tool chest and creating an account from it. Number 3 was viewports. As I stated before, viewports are helpful. I'm going to minimize, actually, I'll just show you guys on this sheet. So typically, architects or some designers will actually send you a document with multiple viewports or multiple views on it. Some scales will be different. Viewports do come in handy with that just because you can draw out a specific space inside of the document and determine the scale, either it be preset or custom. As I did in the presentation, you can calibrate with custom. That way, if you don't have a scale on the drawing, you can use something like a door jamb or say a parking space or something like that. You can figure out what the measurement should be. And once you add that to your space, it creates this blue box where you can do any of your measurements inside of it. Now, one of the things is when you do remove that viewport, it does then go back to the base scale. So in this case, if I were to measure from here to here, it's one thing, but if I measure from here to here, it's different, mainly because of that scale. But if we delete this viewport, then it goes back to the base scale. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but do note that sometimes whenever you open up PDFs, you may get a warning that says, hey, there's viewports associated with this PDF. Do you want to keep them? If you say yes, and then you try to go in and calibrate or scale your drawing inside of Bluebeam, you'll be faced with a big blue wall. And in turn, I always recommend checking if you do say yes accidentally that you want to keep them. Go to your measurements button, wherever that may be, depending on what profile you're in, and then go down to viewports, and you can simply click that trash can there and just remove all from document. That way you can go in and set your own scales, and you'll be good to go. And last but not least, spaces. I'll just briefly go back over that. Just creating spaces inside of Bluebeam is as simple as drawing out a polygon. You can, of course, click and drag to get your square or rectangle. Holding down Shift will give you a square. But if you do your single clicks, as I did with the area before, and actually I want to test something, read to see if we can actually add a point to it, but part of me feels like no. We'll see. All right, we're going to name the space room 1263. And I added an extra space there, so let's go ahead and remove that. Click OK, and that room is there. But I just want to see if I can go in and edit this just like we did before. Yep, so you can also add a control point to your room. So if you start drawing out rooms like I did with that area and missed a corner, you can add your control points as well to manipulate that. So be aware. The other thing I did not mention in the presentation is that you can actually copy the information that is below that room. And say if I go in and I'm just going to go over here, and I'm just going to paste, it will copy your rooms up. So one of the things is if you have a multi-story building and the layout is pretty much the same going up so many floors, you can actually go in and copy all of your rooms from one to another. Now it will sequentially add the numbers up, so it'll just go up in number as you with the pasting. So you will have to go back in and like modify the information if you do copy them up. So that is one thing that it does not do, is that it does not like know that, say, first sheet was level 1, second sheet was level 2, so it needs to be 2000 instead of 1000. So there are some things that it doesn't do that would be nice if it did, but again, suggestions at bluebeam.com or go into that help menu.